Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first session in the series of planned sessions about Security Operations Center. In this, we will discuss not only the in-house Security Operations Center, but in the upcoming sessions, we will also discuss about the MSSPs, how they operate, what kind of functionalities, what kind of roles they have to have. And then we are planning to have more of these kind of videos. Um, Other than that, we'll see how does somebody, if somebody wants to start working on their MSSP or in-house SOC, how they are going to implement, how they have to plan, and what exactly they have to do to run the successful operation. So without any further delay, I would just get into the topic of today's discussion. We'll just today touch briefly what exactly is SOC. It would be just basic of the Security Operations Center that we'll be covering. So I'll start with the definition of what is SOC. This definition is quite widely available. I picked it up from the McAfee website. The Security Operations Center is a centralized function within the organization employing people, process, technology to continuously monitor and improve an organization's security posture while preventing, detecting, analyzing, and responding to the security incidents. Now, let's break it down into different portions. For example, let's start with the Security Operations Center is a centralized function. Why do we have to say it's a centralized function? What exactly does it mean to be a centralized function? In the terminology of Security Operations Center, the centralized function would be some place where you have the visibility into your entire operational infrastructure. For example, if we are talking about an in-house SOC, it is the place where you can have the visibility to each and every endpoint and your parameter devices and other solutions that you are going to monitor. So this is the centralized place where you have all the logs coming in and you are doing the monitoring. More on that later. Within an organization, employing people, processes, and technology. Now, these three parameters, they are very important in any operational gig. For example, people, obviously somebody has to run the operations. Processes, when people are running the operations, what are the different functionalities they are trying to achieve? More importantly, what the processes part covers is how exactly are they going to achieve, how are they going to interact with their internal stakeholders, how they are going to interact with external stakeholders, and what are the different artifacts that they have to exchange within their functionalities when they are working on it. And then the technology part. This is quite obvious in today's world. Everybody has to have the technology to achieve their desired goals. So in the within the SOC, why exactly are we using the people, process, and technology? To continuously monitor and improve an organization's security posture while preventing, detecting. So what are we continuously monitoring? It totally depends on your scope of the Security Operations Center, your objective of the Security Operations Center. Why do you want to establish a Security Operations Center? And then definitely, let's talk about the security posture. The security posture is the status of an organization's readiness to protect its assets by maintaining visibility, correctly identifying adversarial actions, responding to them, and putting necessary controls to prevent untoward events. So if we break it down, the security posture, it is everything from A to Z about the organization's readiness, how much organization is ready to protect itself from any of the internal or external threats. Now, how is an organization going to protect itself? Definitely, there needs to have an information security program. But in the terms of Security Operations Center, we would talk about having the visibility into their actions of attackers. How are you going to attain those visibility? By integrating your all infrastructure with your technology that you are using within your SOC operations and having complete visibility on the audit logs, on the actions, on any other piece of evidence that you have out there to see that what exactly is happening. And once you identify, you need to be capable enough to respond to those actions and then put necessary controls that can stop the repetition of those adversarial actions. So coming back to our main definition, because once we understand this, then we will move forward. So the Security Operations Center is a centralized function within an organization employing people, process, technology to continuously monitor and improve an organization's security posture. This much have we covered while preventing, detecting, and analyzing and responding to security incidents. This is what we are doing right now. So how SOC works? If we talk about the bare minimum of any security operations center, because when you're defining security operations, in my experience, and definitely you must have also seen this, the objective of your security operations center is different in any organization. If it's an internal stakeholder where you are where the client is internal stakeholder, the objectives of the SOC would be different. If it's an MSSP where you are providing the SOC as a service, then you have to have the external clients and you have to bring them on board. And then you have to discuss with them that what exactly are the services that they are looking for. So as a bare minimum, if we talk about an internal SOC, what I would like to see is that they are monitoring the threats, they are investigating the alerts that they're getting, and if there are incidents, they should be able to respond to that. Threat monitoring, what kind of threats they are perceiving or receiving at their SOC SIM solution. Threat monitoring will also cover, for example, if they have web servers, they will have to monitor if there are any SQL injections happening, if there is any scanning happening, these kind of things. How they are going to do it, what are the internal workings, that how do they get alerts, that we will get into it later, maybe in some of the sessions. So once they have the alerts, they have to investigate it, that what exactly happened, what are the machines involved, what are the source IPs, what are the destination IPs, and these kind of things. And once they declare that, okay, this is something serious and we have to respond to it, then they declare an incident and respond to it. So talking about the technology, then what kind of technology your security operations center would be requiring? It's a SIM solution. It's pretty straightforward. Then an EDR, the endpoint detection and response ticketing system. It's not necessary if you are at the basic stage, but for the recording purposes and for the streamlining of the processes, ticketing system is very important. And then the threat intelligence platform, where you will have the capability to get the contextual information about your different artifacts that you are receiving when you are doing the investigation, and then definitely a SOC. So when we talk about the SOC analyst, he needs a variety of tools to perform their role effectively. For example, they need to have deep visibility into all of the systems under their production, and they should be able to detect and prevent and remediate different range of potential threats. So for that, they need to have a SIM solution. For example, SIM solution is very simple. For example, I would explain it in a very simple example. Let's say if you have an organization and you have been compromised, some of the accounts have been hacked and systems have started to show abnormal behavior. To investigate this, you would require physical access to the compromised machines. You will go through the logs on each workstations, and then you would like to see the logs of the firewalls, maybe just to see that from where the attacker came into the systems. Then maybe you have to involve some other machines where you want to look at. In short, you will have to have the access of the different kind of devices to go through the logs and perform the analysis. But the SIM solution is something that can aggregate the data from the multiple sources, and then you can use the data analytics to identify the most probable threats, which enables the SOC analysts to focus their efforts on the events most likely to constitute a real attack. So this is the SIM solution. Next would be the EDR. EDR is something that can give you complete visibility of any endpoint, that what exactly is happening in the endpoint, be it the process creation, be it the network connections, be it the file creation, be it the registry modifications, or the DLL injections. These are the very techniques that any of the attacker would be using, and you have the visibility into that through the EDRs. In the ticketing system at the basic stage, you might not need ticketing system, but you have to have some kind of tool where you can keep the record of what are the different alerts that are coming in, what are the investigations that are being carried on, and what are the next action steps that you have to perform. And then the threat intelligence platform, mostly at the basic stage, you can use any of the open source, for example, OTX from the Alien Vault. You can use the IP abuse DB, or you can use the virus total. That is the most reliable. And the SOAR is where you have to automate. For example, if you are getting lots of false positive from your one of the systems that is legitimate, and you would like to have them whitelisted, or you can do any other action. For example, if there is something that's happening on your system periodically and you would like somebody else to be, maybe some person from the infrastructure to be notified about that, you can just automate that using the SOAR platform. There are different types of SOCs: internal SOC, distributed SOC, global SOC, and co-managed SOC. We'll not go into the details of these as yet, maybe some other time, but we'll quickly go through these definitions. For example, in the internal SOC would be very much focused on your internal departments into your internal organization. It has nothing to do with any external. You are completely monitoring your own infrastructure. For the distributed SOC, it would be a small full-time staff. Maybe sometimes they would join the SOC as a part-time. Typically operates in a 8 to 5 in different regions. It could be divided in different regions. The co-managed SOC, global SOC, is something that is SOC of the SOCs, I would say. The co-managed SOC is where you have an SLA signed, or an agreement signed between your vendor and yourself, where you are also looking after your security operations, and for some part of the day or some part of the time, your vendor is also looking at your SIEM solution and he's providing you the services. When we talk about the people, the team hierarchy that is recommended, or that is and standard in the industry, would be the L1 analyst, L2 analyst, L3 analyst. Among the L3 analysts might be somebody would be declared as a SOC lead, depending on the number of members that you have in the SOC, and then the SOC manager. So just to simplify the picture, basic team hierarchy would be the SOC manager, L3 analyst, couple of L2 analysts, and then the L1 analyst. So we'll go through each one of them. L1 analyst is your first line of defense. He's the guy who's looking at the alerts. His eyes are on the monitors always, and he is identifying the anomalies in your infrastructure. So he has to know your infrastructure in a very detailed manner, so that he knows that if there is an alert, how can he differentiate? Is it an anomaly, or is it something false positive, or it's something that needs a proper investigation? He will do the initial investigation, and then he will, if there is something malicious, he will escalate that investigation towards the L2. He'll also see that if there are lots of number of false positives being generated, or if there are legitimate applications that are generating the alerts, he will request the whitelist for those alerts, and the request for those whitelists goes to the L2. So basically, in short, L1 analyst is the guy who looks at the screens 24/7. He's the first line of defense. He's going through your alerts. The first guy who interacts with your SIEM solution alerts is the L1 analyst, and he identifies the anomalies. The L2 guy. In most of the SOCs, the responsibility of monitoring the alerts is shared between L1 and L2. And he can also do the alert monitoring as well, threat monitoring. And he's also involved in the threat hunting series, because he's a bridge between L3 and L1. He is the main guy who would be handling any escalations of the investigation from the L1. He is the guy who is approving the whitelists requests, and he can also create his own whitelist while he's monitoring the alerts. He is also responsible for mentoring the resources at the L1 level, ensuring that they are very well equipped technically and otherwise also to handle the incidents, handle the investigations, and they do not miss any anomalies. He might be involved in the threat hunting also. Most of the people say that it's more of L3 job, but in some of the organizations, the L2 analyst is also performing the threat hunting. If it's a SOC lead and L3 analyst, I'm just going to merge both of these roles, and I'm going to give you a bit of detail on this. SOC lead would be responsible from the technical point of view for the client onboarding. If there is a client who's coming, now we're talking about when initially your SIEM is deployed and you are going to onboard different departments. If it is an internal department, internal SOC, we're going to talk about the client onboarding as in different departments being onboarded one by one. For example, first the infrastructure, then the business critical service, maybe something else. And if it's MSSP, then it's a whole client being onboarded as a customer for your SOC as a service solution. He's also responsible for the incident management. If there is an incident, it has been declared. He's the guy who has to respond to the incident. Yes, he's not an incident responder, but he should be able to do the basic incident response. He should be able to interact with the client, tell them what exactly happened, what are we going to do about it, what are the recommendations at this stage, and if required, he should be able to coordinate with the incident response team also and tell them that what exactly happened, and from there they can take it off. The the documentation and report parts, that's the SOC lead guy who's going to do it. The dashboard, the reporting, the weekly, monthly reporting that has to be delivered to the clients, to the internal departments, that what exactly is the performance of the SOC, how exactly are they being used. These are the things that they need to be aware of. And then definitely the stakeholders communication is important from the technical point of view. So if we talk about the SOC manager, in a small setting, if it's a SOC maybe of 5 to 10 people, maybe the SOC manager and an L3 would be doing lots of work, and there will be overlap in their responsibilities. But if we talk about the big picture, the SOC manager is ultimately responsible for the strategy and the roadmap development for your internal or external, whatever SOC you are using. He's responsible for giving you the strategy and the roadmap, that how exactly are we going to move ahead, what are the different processes that we have to have in place to bring the client on board very smoothly, what are the technologies that we have to adopt, and definitely he's also going to be responsible for ensuring that all the resources from L3 to L1, they have their own career or a training plan with them, so that they have complete technical resources in their own SOC. If there are going to be new services to be added, it's the SOC manager who is going to anybody can bring up those ideas, but it's the ultimate responsibility of the SOC manager, because he knows when exactly and how exactly he is going to assign resources to initiate those new services. And if he can, he should be doing that. OPEX and CAPEX, like if they are running the SOC operations, he is also involved in the financials of running the SOC operations. He should be able to identify if they are going to launch a new service, what are going to be the capital that they are going to require, and what is the OPEX that would be required over the time period. Coordination with all stakeholders, be it internal or external, he will be doing that from the managerial point of view, and if required, he should be able to do from the technical point of view also, if the SOC 3 or the SOC L3 or the SOC lead is not available. Ultimately, it's the SOC manager who is responsible for the security operations. This one role that I want to discuss, which was not in the basic layout of the team that we identified before, was the SIEM engineer, because he's the guy who's a very critical resource in any SOC. He's more of an administration guy because he is going to look after your SIEM solution. He is the guy who should be able to add new detection strategies or the use cases in your SIM solution. Anybody can suggest anything, but the SIM engineer should be able to do that, actually implementing in your SIM solution. If there are any problems about the whitelist creations or any other thing, it's the SIM engineer, because he is basically the administrator of the SIM solution and he should be able to help you. Assisting SOC resources with the reports and queries if there are any reports that are going to be delivered to the clients weekly, monthly, periodically, any kind of or ad hoc reports. SIEM engineer should be able to give the templates for those reports and give those, they extract those reports from the SIEM solution itself. If there are any requirements for the dashboard creation, SIEM engineer is the guy who will be helping us. So what we have covered the people, we have covered the people part, we have covered the technology part. So what exactly is the process? So if we talk about the dictionary, Cambridge Dictionary definition, it's the series of action that you have to take in order to achieve a result. So if we talk about the result that we are trying to achieve in the security operations is we have to continuously monitor our resource or infrastructure. While you are continuously monitoring this, if you identify any anomalies, you have to report them, you have to escalate them, you have to tweak out the false positive, you have to fine tune your own detection strategies. So how exactly is this going to happen? For all this thing to happen smoothly, you need to have a process. So for example, end result would be the risk management, threat intelligence, vulnerability. At the end of the day, more or less, if it's an internal SOC or any other, you have to improve the security posture of the organization that you're monitoring. So what are the series of actions that could be a part of the SOC? That would be the monitoring, alerting and investigation, escalation process. How exactly is going to an alert going to be escalated from L1 to L2 and L3? Who is responsible for what? What is the part of the L1? When exactly he's going to say that, okay, this is the part where I have the right to escalate it to the L2. How does L2 decide, okay, it should be rejected or it should be escalated further? So these kind of things are defined your processes, that how important it is. Contextual information gathering. How do we contact the client? How do we get the open source information about this particular, let's say, any IOC or anything? Who would be contacting the client? Incident declaration. Can L1 do the incident declaration? Can L2 do it? Or do we need the management approval? Who is the guy on the client side who's going to receive that report or uh, the incident? Who's going to help us with that? The asset discovery. How soon can we run the scans? Who informs the client? Should we inform the client or not? These all actions that you have to perform in your SOC operations have to come under the umbrella of the processes that you have to define. And this is just a summary of what we discussed right now. Who will perform this action? What will trigger the action? And how will that action be performed? And obviously, if there are actions that have been done, what are the lessons learned from that? I hope this was helpful. We quickly went through the basics of the SOC that anybody should know, the people, process, and technology. If there are any questions or any feedback, please feel free to share with us, and we'll be more than happy to reach back.